half square triangles today. I know that you've all heard of half square triangles, HSTs, whatever you want to call them. They get used in about every pattern we ever make.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about half square triangles 4 ways. There are a lot of different ways to make these things, and everyone has their preferred method. So we're going to go over the 4 probably most common ways that we see to make half square triangles and how to make them perfect.
Right.
So,
because perfect's important.
Perfect's important.
The first method I'm going to talk about, well, actually, first, we're going to be making 2.5-inch finished half square triangles. What I mean by finished is that there are no raw edges around the block anymore.
Into your block.
Totally sewn in.
So unfinished.
So unfinished as a unit, it's going to be 3 inches. So the first method I'm going to show is where we do an easy corner triangle, stitch and flip. There are several terms for it. Basically, I have 2 3-inch squares of fabric. I'm going to layer them right here, right sides together. My lovely assistant is going to hand me a ruler. I love these friction pens. They go away with heat, so you don't have to see them, and they go on smoothly. And rulers work better right side down.
It's true. They're grippy.
I'm going to draw a line, corner to corner, nice 45-degree angle for those of you who remember your geometry. It's important in this hobby. And I'm just going to stitch on the line. Not next to it, not around it. I'm just going to stitch on the line. A nice thing when you are sewing triangles and you're putting your point into your machine, I don't get the point of my triangle or square that I have on an angle sucked down into my machine. So I'm just going to sew on the line.
We love featherweights. They're so clicky.
I know, it's such a nice little clickety-clack. And then, because I'm a miser with my thread, I'm going to turn my leader into an ender so that it's ready for me for the next block. Now with the stitch and flip, I've sewn on the line. Just going to come over here and trim 1/4 inch from my line, open it up, and press. Now, I don't care which way you press, whether you press to the side, whether you press open. Pressing open is really good if you're dealing with a lot of small blocks.
Yes.
Because you have a lot of bulk. However, if you're going to be dealing with 3-inch triangles, you're probably just fine pressing to the side.
And there we have a half square triangle. We're going to go into the next methods.
Okay, we'll talk squaring up in a minute.
We'll talk squaring up in a minute.
Okay, I'm going to show you my least favorite method. Now, ready? This is my least favorite method. How many times do you see a pattern that says cut 2 3 3/8 inch squares and then cut them in half on the diagonal? Like so. Except I don't do 3 3/8, I always round up.
Yeah, go to 3 1/2, add that extra 1/8. It's going to make all the difference in the world when it comes to squaring them up.
And if you want to keep your points, you have to square up. That's not a step we can skip.
Yeah, don't skip it. So now you have your 2 halves, right? So this is awesome. Same method as this, right? Here's my issue with this method, and Jen agrees. Look at how much that stretches. When you cut fabric on the bias, it stretches a lot.
Right, we just broke the weave.
Yeah, this is how much it stretches on the sides. Okay, lengthwise. Lengthwise is the least amount of stretch. I can tell that this is lengthwise because it's not stretching. With the fabric, there is a decent amount of stretch. It's right here. On the bias, woo! Right. So now when you go to sew them together,
you have to be very, very careful.
Because they're stretched. This is totally a valid method. This is the reason that we don't prefer it.
Right.
We prefer the next one we're going to talk about.
It's just a lot less accurate. But I'm going to do it anyway. So a nice 1/4 inch seam. Again, I'm using my leader so that my sewing machine doesn't eat it. And then I'm going to turn my leader and these little threads off into an ender. Plus, if you're an obsessive chain piecer like me, it makes you happy because tails are painful.
Yes, this is true. We're both obsessive chain piecers.
That's a problem.
Next method. Sorry, Jen can talk about it.
I'm just going to
draw the line.
Okay, so this is my favorite method. You know how we just took a 3 1/2 inch square, which is what that was, and cut it in half on the diagonal and made this? Well, now we're going to do the same thing like we did on the stitch and flip, where we drew a corner, or a line corner to corner. But now, instead of sewing on the line, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. And this square, these are 3.5 inch squares, are only 1/2 inch bigger than what I started with to make this one, which is a 3-inch square. But with that extra 1/2 inch on both of those, now I'm going to get 2 instead of 1. And I love not wasting fabric because fabric's awesome.
I like to sew a scant 1/4 inch.
Yeah, it's nice to go scant. Now by scant, we don't mean 1/8 of an inch. We need like, move your needle over like 1 needle width.
Yeah.
The reason for that is it gives you a little more space to square up. It's nice to leave some extra to cut off. That sounds a little counterintuitive, but really squaring up is the most important step of making half square triangles. So making that easier is better. Like doing the math, 3 3/8 should get me a 2.5 inch finished half square triangle. But first of all, cutting eighths is irritating anyway. It's harder. So for me, it's better to go to that 3.5 and then have a little more to cut down. And also when we're talking about a scant seam, I have this happen all the time in my Quilting 101 classes where people go really scant.
No.
We don't want to do that. And when you move over, say 1/32 of an inch, well, we're doing that with 2 pieces of fabric. So it's actually double that. So you've gained a 1/16 of an inch, not a 32nd. And that makes a big difference.
So we're going to talk squaring up in a minute, but it really is the big deal.
It really is the most important part. All right, so I'm just going to sew down this slightly scant.
And you can turn it right around.
Right, and I just flip it like this, pull my thread a little bit, and go back the way I came. Super simple, except I'm going to cut my little leader off here so that he's free to throw in at the end. Okay, so now I've got a seam on both sides of my drawn line. Liz is going to go ahead and cut down that line for me because she's my lovely assistant today.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And now we have 2 matching half square triangles out of
which is
an extra 1/2 inch of fabric for
right.
making 1. There are times when making 1 is the best way to go. They are few and far between, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, it's just wasteful.
But
unless you only need 1.
If you only need 1, there's a pattern that has like 2, and then you have to get more fabric. But anyway, generally speaking, 2 at a time, best.
And you know,
way to go.
it never hurts to have little half square triangles sitting around. You might make a little orphan
That's
block
true.
out of a bunch of leftovers from a quilt.
I've used them plenty.
Right?
Last method, I need some pins.
You do need some pins.
These are bigger squares. These
Right.
are also going to make 2.5 inch finished half square triangles. We got 2 of them here, facing right sides together.
I'm going to press this real quick though.
If you haven't noticed, we're featuring Summer Sweet fabrics at the moment from Cherry and Chelsea. Summer
Who
Sweet
also
is
did
their
Harper's
name.
Garden.
Who also did Harper's Garden. I'm on top of things. Jen used these fabrics to make a cute rainbow quilt that's back behind us, but right now we're gonna just
Okay,
show
so
you.
she's
I'm
layering them
gonna
on
pin
top.
this, and I like to pin 4 sides.
Yeah.
All 4 sides. And you're gonna see why in just a minute. But we just want these 2 pieces of fabric to stay together.
Right. And if we pin the 4 sides the way she's done it here, I don't have to remove the pins as I sew around the block. All right,
We're all
now
about
for this,
efficiency.
right? For this, I'm literally just going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. So it's right sides facing, which is really how you sew about everything in quilting. It takes a minute.
I'm gonna pause for a second. Okay, so Jen just finished sewing all 4 sides of this guy. Now we grab our handy dandy ruler. And we are going to, sorry, I'm lining it up for my 45 degrees, not necessarily edge to edge because, well, we're imperfect people around
Right?
here.
It's weird.
And we are going to cut essentially an X. And we cut this thing in 4 pieces.
Right.
And now we have 4
half square triangles, and I made them way too big this time, but that's okay. It shows you the method. But it's a nice way to get 4. Now, just because we've sewn all these doesn't mean we're anywhere near done.
Set these ones aside.
Right? We're not even close to done. We just sewed them. That's
Yes.
like half the job.
We sew in the half square triangles. The next step, I used to like to think I could skip if I was really accurate. This is squaring up, and this is really important. When it comes to squaring up, you need a ruler. That's why we sew them a little bit big, and it cuts all of these little ends off that get really bulky
inside
your quilt. So, the gold standard of squaring up when it comes to rulers is a block lock. Okay, it has this groove in here that your seam fits just nicely into.
And it locks in.
And it locks in, and you can't really mess it up. Okay.
It, however, only works if you press to the side. If
Yes.
it's something you pressed open, the block lock is like any other ruler.
I am an open presser for a lot of things, and so that is why I don't own a whole collection of block locks. But
whereas I press to
know-
the side probably more often than open. It just depends on what I'm making. So the block lock's really good
People
for me.
swear by them. They're fantastic
Well,
for that reason.
when I made Corona and had to do 442 half square triangles, you better believe I bought that
she
2.5
bought
inch
the block lock. So another one I want to talk about. This is my favorite. It's kind of an oldie. It's called the Precision Trimmer. You'll see all these fancy lines. This is made to square up half square triangles and quarter square triangles. It is the only ruler I've ever found
Yes.
with the lines on it for quarter square triangles, and I have done a lot of those, and I found it very useful for that. And it does 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 5, 6. It's a great ruler for squaring up as well. You can do it with your regular old Quilter Select rulers. These are our favorites. Really, what you need is any ruler with a 45-degree angle.
And
Okay.
you can't skip that 45-degree angle.
Our
That
Omni-
line, this line right here, is the important line for squaring up half square triangles.
So your Omni Grid works too, and we're going to do it right here with an Omni Grid. So if you come in and see,
Turn it
the
around.
thing is, what we want
You're right-handed.
is, I know, a 3-inch square, okay? And what you can see is I've got that extra 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I can get really lazy and come in like this and just try to square it up one way. Don't do that, okay?
Don't do that,
Go
please.
for perfect. All right? So I've got it lined up here. What I want is that diagonal line to meet up with my 45. That's the important part, is that your points end up right there. So we're going to cut 2 directions, pull it off, turn it around, and do it again. Okay? I've done this where I've had to make 500 at a time. Yes, it gets tedious.
Just turn on Netflix and
Seriously, just watch something while you're at it.
grab some plain popcorn that's not greasy.
Yes. And here we have a perfect 3-inch half square triangle. You'll see my points are perfect. So when we go and turn this into a pinwheel or something of that like, your points are going to match up and you're not going to lose them, because if your 1/4-inch seam is there, your points are going to stay exactly where you want them. And that is the basics of half square triangles 4 ways.
Yeah.
Right?
We got
Okay.
it. You have any questions? Reach out
Comment,
to us. Comment.
send us an
We'll
email.
respond. Send us an email. We've got several classes on these. If you're local, you can attend any of our Quilting 101 and 102 classes. We cover a lot of these basics to help you improve your quilting techniques. Anyway,
Have a good one.
thanks for watching.